I asked at the end of the last video if there was any interest in a video with tips for buying a motorcycle from a dealership, and the answer was an overwhelmingly resounding yes. So here we are. I slapped this video together for you. This will primarily be tips for buying new bikes, but some or most of these tips can and do apply when you're buying used from a dealership. Before we jump in, I want to say thanks to Moto Nerd for sponsoring this video. So originally I had this as a TLDR at the end of the video, but the script turned out so much longer than I expected. I'm just gonna drop it here at the beginning, just in case you don't make it all the way through. If you remember nothing else, remember these 4 things about buying a bike from a dealership. 1, shop around for the best price. 2, decide what you're willing to pay before you go in. 3, expect hidden/surprise fees and be ready to say no. And 4, and this is most important, be willing to walk away. I'm just gonna run through the process in order. We'll start with before you go into the dealership. Number 1, shop around. Email every dealership within the distance that you're willing to drive. For me, that's about an hour and a half generally. Get an out-the-door quote for the bike you're wanting. And if you're trying to decide between multiple bikes, you can try to get multiple out-the-door quotes. That's a little harder, but if you've narrowed it down to one bike, get an out-the-door price from multiple dealerships before you ever set foot in the dealership. If they won't give it to you online, don't go there. And when I say out-the-door price, I mean literally ask for an out-the-door price. If you don't ask for this, sometimes they forget to mention their extra fees like freight and shipping, setup, dealer markup, or the dreaded market adjustment until you're in the finance office about to sign papers. Make sure that out-the-door quote includes tax, title, and DMV. Ask, does this include tax, title, and DMV? The phrase out the door should imply that, but again, sometimes they forget to add things, so I always ask. Make sure you literally say, is this the out-the-door price? Because even after doing all of that, I've had dealers try to slip in new fees at the end saying stuff like, oh, the salesman didn't know about those, or whatever. They did. They just didn't tell you because they knew you wouldn't buy the bike. And if you can, get it in writing. An email is writing, but a number printed out or on your phone that you can show that says, they offered me this price, can you beat it later on? Step 3 is optional, but worth considering. Think about getting financing ahead of time. You can generally get pre-approved for a loan from a local bank in a day or 2, and they can do it entirely online. You don't have to fill out the actual paperwork until you go in to get the actual loan. They will give you an amount and an interest rate, and you have all of that ready to go when you walk in. The dealer may have better deals because they sometimes get lower interest rates because they do a lot of loans at one place. So you can always just go with theirs. But having your own financing removes one complication and gives you another bargaining chip. Number 4, before you go in, get a recommendation if you can. If you have friends that buy bikes or have bought bikes, ask them if they have a local dealer and or a salesman they like. So many dealerships are super corporate nowadays, and all the independent dealerships are getting bought up more and more every single day by these giant conglomerates. Those corporate entities will throw everything they can at you at once, trying to overwhelm you into buying stuff you don't need. So if you can find a salesman or a dealership that will still talk to you like a human being and not a corporate AI, that is a huge bonus. Honestly, at this point, literally half of my local dealerships suck, and that is dealerships within an hour and a half of driving, and I won't buy from them unless I have no other choice. A few examples of what I mean. I wanted to buy a Grom one time from a dealer in Salem. I'll let you figure out which one it was. And they had a reasonable but not a great price advertised. I asked for the out-the-door price, and I'm glad I did, because they had an additional $1,000 reconditioning fee on a used bike. On a bike that cost $3 grand. That's an additional 35% over what it said on the website. Always ask for the price. That same dealer once made me pay a $50 quote refundable deposit just so they could run my credit on a bike I was interested in seeing what the payments were. It wasn't even like, I'm definitely buying it. I was like, well, let's talk about what payments might be. And it was hell trying to get that back once I came to my senses and decided I wasn't shopping there anymore. So finding a reputable dealer can make the process so much easier. They're still gonna have to try to make money, but man, just like getting one that's slightly less bullshit is a huge advantage. This is gonna come off shilly, I don't care. I'm not sponsored or anything, but I've had very good experiences with Power Motorsports in Sublimity, Oregon. They list the actual price of the bike on the website. They don't charge freight and setup, and the guys there are pretty straightforward. Obviously, they still need to make money, but they're not slapping you with $1,000 in extra hidden fees left and right. If they're upcharging something because it's hard to get or whatever, and there's an ADM, it's right on the website. You will know before you go in, before you ever call. They also ship nationwide, so it's worth looking at their website, and talk to Matt if you call. I'm not sponsored by Power, but I am sponsored by Moto Nerd. Once you get your new bike, head over to motocampnerd.com to outfit it and yourself. for all of those awesome motorcycle adventures to come. MotoCampNerd.com is your one-stop shop for all things motorcycle camping and adventure. A lot of dealerships are corporate and lack that personal human element. Moto Camp Nerd is just literally two people, Ben and his wife Mary, chilling at their shop in North Carolina, answering phone calls and emails, and packing and shipping orders themselves every single day. Please consider supporting Ben's small business and his dream of quitting his day job, which is working in a factory, and facilitating your adventures full time. Whether you need camping gear, luggage, riding gear, or just general good vibes and solid advice, Moto Camp Nerd is the place to go. I've been working with Ben since the store opened. He's a great dude, and I could not be happier with our partnership. Plus, his name is Ben, so it must be awesome, right? I will link MotoCampNerd.com in the description and in a pinned comment. Check out what they have to offer and be sure to tell them Dork sent you. And no, Ben and I are not the same person, despite what way too many people believe. I had to fly to North Carolina last December to prove it. Now that you've done all the pre-work before going into the dealership, you're ready to go in. Before you step foot in the door, decide what you're actually willing to pay and/or what payment you're willing to pay, although that's a bad way to negotiate because they'll just manipulate the numbers to make the payment smaller and you end up paying the same amount. But it really helps to have a number in your head before you walk in because they'll be like, well, it's only this much and only this much, and the next thing you know, it's $2,000 more than you thought you were gonna pay. 2, decide ahead of time if you want an extended warranty or prepaid maintenance because they're gonna try to get you to buy both. I am generally against extended warranties because you're basically betting on a new bike to break, and it shouldn't, but there are some circumstances where it might make sense. Like you can't really afford a big repair bill, but you can afford the extra 20 bucks on the monthly payment and you're planning to keep the bike for the length of the warranty. You have to decide what that peace of mind is worth for you. Again, I always say no, but that's just me. Depending on the bike, that extended warranty is gonna run you between $1,000 and $3,000 or more. So it is a significant chunk of change. Prepaid maintenance can technically save you money, but only if you are planning to come back to that same dealer and do none of the maintenance yourself. You can and should do oil changes and the like on your own. They're easy and way cheaper. I paid $376 for a dealer oil change on my KTM 790. But I did it because doing maintenance there extended the warranty, so that's a consideration. By comparison, the Rocky Mountain ATV oil change kit, that's oil, filter, funnel, and everything else you need, is $60. Now that you've collected a bunch of out-the-door price quotes, take the lowest one you got to the dealer you actually want to buy from. Generally, that's the closest or the one that has the best reputation. Go in, look at the bike, sit on it, test ride it, make sure it's actually what you want. Just because some dipshit YouTuber recommends a bike doesn't mean it's gonna be what you want or need. If they won't let you test ride the bike, consider going somewhere else where they will. It might be worth calling ahead of time to find out and save yourself a trip. Now that you've tested out the bike, you're sure it's the one you want, you're ready to buy, do not get too excited. Do not name the bike. Do not get dead set on that one. Do not imagine yourself doing future adventures all summer long on that bike. Not yet. Do not decide that you're definitely coming home with a bike today. This is where a lot of people blow it, especially me, to this day. They get all the way to negotiating and are so excited, they start saying things like, what's an extra $30 a month, when the dealer starts pulling bullshit fees and add-ons out of their ass. If the dealership you're at is not the one that you got the lowest quote from, say, such and such a dealer is willing to sell me one for this price, can you beat it? If not, see if they can match it. If not, well, then it's up to you to decide if the price difference is worth the extra travel time or inconvenience. This is also a great time to say, okay, thanks for your time, and get up to walk out if they can't meet it or beat it. You can always come back later, but there's a good chance that salesperson doesn't want to have invested their time for nothing, and they'll go back to the sales manager to see what they can do. This is why you don't want to go in dead set on buying today. The walkout does not work unless you're willing to actually do it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I used to think the walkout was a myth. I thought it was, that's bullshit, nobody actually does that. But when I bought my Silverado, I was shopping at dealerships in Portland. I found one I liked and was trying to make a deal, and they were nickel and diming me. So I finally got tired of it and said, okay, well, I'm gonna look around in town and I'll come back if I don't find anything. And I walked out the door. I was sitting in my rig, pulling up other dealerships on Google Maps when there was a knock at my window and the salesman had a new offer from the sales manager. I'm not sure if he was bullshitting me, but he literally said, you're the best I've ever seen at this. I just think people know about the walkout, but they don't do it. Be prepared, is all I'm saying. It doesn't always work. Sometimes they're not lying to you about their price, but it can really give you a chance to catch your breath in a negotiation. Also, side note, have pity on the poor salesman. This time in particular with that truck purchase, the salesman was doing everything he could, but he's so caught in the middle between a manager who won't budge and me who just wants to pay a certain price. They get caught in the middle, forced to go back and forth with offers. Honestly, if it gets to a point where that's getting annoying and it's taking forever, I sometimes just ask to speak to the sales manager directly. They don't want to do that because it's a negotiation tactic that you don't get to talk to the person, but they will play that game forever, so be willing to stop playing and leave. When you're negotiating a price, keep in mind that new bikes have very slim margins, so there's not a lot of room to move on price most of the time. Some dealers simply can't or will not sell below a certain threshold. You can often negotiate the other fees though. MSRP is MSRP, but the freight and setup can sometimes be negotiated, and you honestly should just straight up refuse to pay any additional dealer markup or quote market adjustments unless it's just a super rare bike you can't get anywhere else. If they won't move on price, try to negotiate in some gear or add-ons. Make sure you're clear that you want those for free, not at a discount or just rolled into the loan, because that's what they'll offer or assume you mean. The margins on accessories and gear are much better, and it's a much smaller loss to give up a helmet and jacket at wholesale price than to give up any of their slim margin on a motorcycle. So that can sometimes help and sweeten a deal. Once you've decided to buy the bike, get the actual price plus fees in writing. If you're not buying right then, or you need to go back to your bank to get the loan set up, ask for a purchase order. That has to be for the actual out the door amount because that's how much the loan has to be. So everything should be on there. They can't hide any fees on a purchase order. Purchase order will also have the VIN so you can get your insurance going ahead of time if that's what you're doing, if you're definitely buying the bike. Honestly, if you can, and I never can, this is a great moment to take a break. Go get coffee or lunch or something and just think it through or talk it over with someone. It's easy to get very excited and swept up in all the stuff they're throwing at you. Take a step back and just be sure you're doing what you set out to do. To be clear, this is once you've decided on a price and before you go into the finance office, or at least you think you've decided on a price and you want to think about it. You'll get into the finance office and they'll have all the paperwork filled out for you. Some places will hand you an invoice with the warranty and maintenance already pre-filled out. This is why you need to get a price in writing beforehand so you can see the difference. If the price is different, ask why. If it's an extended warranty or maintenance and you don't want that, tell them you don't want it. Chances are they will pull out a second set of paperwork that was already filled out without that stuff. If it's something else, like a surprise fee, ask why you weren't told about that beforehand and say, do I have to pay that? You still need to be willing to bail. It is easy to get caught up and excited because you're so close to owning a new motorcycle and just like accept a few hundred and bullshit hidden fees because whatever, I just want to get this done. There's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but just be prepared for it and decide how much of it you're willing to tolerate. After you buy the bike, paperwork signed, you got a deal you liked, or at least that you can tolerate. If you aren't sure how everything on the bike works, the salesman should be willing to run through it all with you. A lot of these places are very dedicated to aftercare now. They want to make sure the whole experience is good because they want you to come back and do your service there because that's where they make their money. So they're usually pretty willing to kind of walk through things with you. Maybe they walk you over to the service department and show you what it looks like, but it's not just here's your keys, go anymore in most cases. So if you got a new bike with a bunch of fancy features, get them to walk you through them if you need to know how to do it. Add your insurance right away. I usually do it in the office while I'm waiting for them to get the paperwork copied and back to me. I just ask for the VIN, I take a picture of it, and I do all my progressive.com stuff while I'm waiting, so there's insurance on the bike before I ever leave the lot. Make sure that you get 2 keys and ask about a toolkit. Some dealers never put them on the bikes when they're assembling them, and there's just a box of toolkits sitting in a back room somewhere. I've had that happen a couple times. I've had to go back and get them a couple times. And before you leave, ask if they'll fill up the tank. Some dealers will, some dealers won't, but they definitely have gas on hand. So just ask. So that's sort of the process. Some general tips just to keep in mind. And again, this is sort of based on my experience. So hop in the comments if there are general tips I've missed, things that people need to know. But one, it is easy to get intimidated by a fast-talking salesman and a finance manager. They do this 10 times a day. You do it once every few years. They're gonna be better at it than you. This is why it's so important to just decide what you're willing to pay before you go in. They'll try to confuse you with a lot of different numbers and options, but if you know your ceiling is $10,000 and they can't hit it, then you can just walk. Getting pre-approved for a certain amount, or even getting pre-approved for a certain amount and saying you're pre-approved for a lower amount is a great defense against this. I'm only approved for $10,000 and that extended warranty will make it more than that, so I can't get it. I have said it before, but it bears repeating. You have to be willing to walk away or know ahead of time that you aren't. It helps If you can, to take someone with you, tell them your red lines before you even walk in the door. You might get blinded by excitement, but they won't because they're not getting anything. And don't be too hard on yourself if you don't get exactly the deal you wanted. I almost never leave totally stoked about what I paid. You're gonna have to compromise somewhere most likely. Just try and decide ahead of time where that is. And my favorite tip, if the salesman or sales manager seems super happy, you probably didn't get a good deal. If they're like mildly irritated, I'm not saying piss them off, but they should be like, oh, all right, you probably did as well as you could. I always say if we both are kind of grumpy, it's probably the best deal we could have made. That turned out way longer than I thought it was gonna be. That's a lot to take in, so I apologize if it seemed a bit like drinking from a fire hose. As a reminder, here's the too long didn't read, the 4 things you need to remember if you don't remember anything else. 1, shop around for the best price. 2, decide what you're willing to pay before you go in. 3, expect hidden and surprise fees and be ready to say no. And 4, be willing to walk away. Not all dealers are shady. Not all dealers will try to overwhelm you with bullshit. But in my experience buying bikes for 10 years, the sad reality is that the majority of them are and will. Hopefully, you now feel a little bit better prepared going in. New bike day is the best day. You can't beat it. And I hope these tips can help you enjoy it without feeling like you got blindsided and overwhelmed at the dealership along the way. If you found this info helpful, please hit the like button and maybe even share the video if you know someone who could benefit from it. Both of those things really help the channel. Thanks again to Motocamp Nerd for sponsoring this video. Please consider supporting Ben and Mary by clicking on the link in the description. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. And please do not forget to do what the dealership will not do and be excellent to each other. Thank you.
Excellent!